of the Sire, Facebook.com/Secrets of the Sire, Twitch.tv/Secrets of the Sire, and secretsofthesire.com. You can also now check us out on blogtalkradio.com and radiopublic.com, and wherever you download your favorite podcast, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google Play, Spotify, you name it, we're there. Tonight's episode, Avengers Endgame Blu-ray review, Doctor Strange 2. We dive into the sequel, and we welcome Sean Lewis from the hit Image Comics Thumbs on to talk about his series. As always, I'm your host, Michael Dolce, and joined, as always, by my high-energy co-host, Mr. Hassan Godwin, Lord of the Radio. How you doing, sir?
Well, does that mean we can actually talk now? Is that introduction over?
The introduction's over.
Oh my God! What do you got? A scroll that your wife is like on the other side of you, and she rolls out this scroll of like, "Be sure to thank Aunt Mildred."
We've got a lot going on. Look, I can't help it if we've just got tons of stuff going on, which which is actually a good thing. Real quick,
yes,
I want to give a shout out to Jim Calafiore.
Oh, another shout out.
Cover artist for the Sire trade paperback 1 and 2. He's got a new Kickstarter out. It's called Ned, Lord of the Pit, a comedy of terrors. It's about an average guy with enough problems discovers a world he never knew existed, and things go straight to hell. So go to Kickstarter, search for Ned, Lord of the Pit, or search Jim
Not to be
Calafiore.
Confused with Lord of the Radio, though.
No, much different.
Ed and I do not know each other, even though we both belong to the same club.
Yeah.
I'm in the radio club, and he's the pit club.
Correct.
We don't really talk to each other. Sometimes we see each other at the craft services tables, but we don't really.
You always want to be in the pit.
You know what? In this heat, no. I'd rather be on the radio.
It's in the party pit.
The radio has an air-conditioned studio that you could sit in and be on the radio. So
yeah,
pits rarely are air-conditioned.
So before we get into Avengers Endgame Blu-ray review, some exciting news. I got contacted by a production company.
They found out about you.
No, they haven't. Thanks, dude.
Whoops.
Got contacted by a production company for a new CBS show. The main character's kid, I don't know, big graphic novel fan. They want to paint the room in graphic novels. And so they reached out to see if I would donate some of Sire Studios' product. Sire, Mainstream, Undone, Descendant, all really cool things, and see if we would donate them to be on the show, which I will not name.
We get those cool phone calls and emails and letters and stuff like that. I always get notices.
One of the things I sent them, Hassan, was your cover to Sire number 10. So
Comic-Con, wasn't that?
Yeah, which
that was year before last, right? That was 2 years ago.
That logo actually might prevent me from using it.
I can always send you a copy of the original painting.
No. I have the artwork. It doesn't matter. I didn't have it printed out as a print without the logo on it. So.
Oh well.
So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Maybe your stuff is there. All right.
Maybe one day.
We start our show off with our splash page announcement. That is Avengers Endgame Blu-ray review.
Yeah.
Avengers Endgame. Last year we did this with Infinity War. We actually reviewed the Blu-ray. It's out as of August 13th. You want to know the details, Hassan? You want to know the details?
Blu-ray,
wonderful
the Blu-ray of Endgame?
Yeah. Does anybody still watch Blu-rays and DVDs? Like, is it still a thing?
Yeah, because they have not yet, that I know of, found a viable way to let you have all this behind the scenes footage and stuff like that on your streaming services.
True.
It's not really like that. So if you've seen the movie, what you want is the home experience.
Yeah.
The other side of it, as a person with 4K capability, regular TV looks like crap on 4K.
Yeah.
Depending on how the strength of your signal, streaming looks like crap. But you know what doesn't look like crap?
What?
Your 4K and your Blu-ray players.
Yeah.
That actually, you watch those and you're like, oh, that's what I spent this money for.
I know. I feel like it is a techie dream. Like when we were in bands together, you guys would talk. You guys would talk like shop. Like you guys would really get like deep into like the tech of it, the hardware, the
amps and
all this
brand
stuff,
names and stuff like that. Yeah.
And I'm like, I like singing songs. I like to write words and put them on and sing songs. I feel like this is
like
but
to rhyme.
So, but I don't want to neglect the fans out there who might be into this, into the tech aspect. It sounds like you are, which is nothing wrong with that either.
Well, look, I think the streaming. I think it's a bad idea. I think I think streaming is great, but I think giving up tangible media, which is what everybody's talking about doing now. And I understand. I mean, it's a tidal wave. You're not going to be able to stop it from happening, no matter how many cautionary tales you tell people.
Yep.
But I just think it's a bad idea to not own anymore. And that's basically what people are talking about. There's renting for the rest of your life.
Yeah. It's ironic too, because our guest Sean Lewis, his whole comic book Thumbs is all about anti-technology and this technology mogul, infiltrating our kids and through clouds and streaming and all this other stuff. So
well, I'm not even anti-tech. It doesn't quite tie together because I'm not anti-tech. I'm more anti-control, right. Or anti-consumer protected. Mm-hmm. Because like whatever you buy is yours.
Yeah.
And then it's up to you to utilize it correctly. I've heard a lot of the stories about people like, oh, this used to be on, this used to be on Netflix. It's gone now. This used to be on. So I mean, when these shows, these movies come and go, they're gone forever if you don't have a tangible media, if you don't have some way to actually to capture it and hold on to it for your own consumption later.
Sure.
And I understand like the memory, like we don't have to take up hard drive space with this stuff. Don't have to take up shelf space with all these belongings, and I get that. I get the convenience of it, but I don't exactly understand like paying for a service, and then having that service that you're paying into continue to be able to dictate to you whether you get to watch something or not, which is basically what they're doing. And that's supposedly what we were cutting the cords to get away from, the cable cords to get away from it. And we're just giving it away with these streaming services.
Yeah.
That's also going to be exorbitant amounts of money. They're gonna start extracting.
They just released recently the Disney Plus package, Hulu, Disney Plus, and ESPN, which the ESPN part does not work with. As I've learned, there are no sports fans in comics. They're very, very little. We're very far between. But apparently, you can get ESPN to become a sports fan. So Disney wants you as well-rounded as humanly possible.
Join us. Join the dark side.
This talks about the picture quality. This is what you get on the Avengers Endgame Blu-ray. Featurettes include an Iron Man movie legacy, Captain America movie legacy, Black Widow, Stan Lee, the Russo brothers' journey to Endgame, and the women of the MCU. 6 deleted scenes, a gag reel, and director and writer commentary track. So there's at least some bulk to it.
No, there's some heft to it. There's supposed to be. There really has to be. That is now the biggest movie of all time. So.
We're gonna get the tech part of it over though. Picture quality. While Endgame's picture quality is good enough, this is from Forbes, John Archer, is good enough to consistently deliver a substantial upgrade over the HD Blu-ray image. It isn't quite the reference grade release I can't help but feel Disney could have achieved if it had really wanted to. Let's cover the good news, starting with the fact that the image is super clean.
Okay, now hold on. See, this is the crap that we have to endure today.
Sure.
He doesn't give us specs about exactly what it is versus what it could have been or what it should have been, with actual numbers and tangible.
No, he does. I'm not going to.
Well, I mean, like okay, if you're not, but he's saying, I feel that they could have achieved more. There's not really
the first ever podcast where the host falls asleep while reading. If I read you all the specs, so no, there's no way I'm reading all that stuff.
All right, I guess I won't comment on what you're saying then if you're not telling me exactly what you're saying.
No, I'm just saying this is his summary of what it is.
Okay, I'll just listen and I'll hang back.
Hang back. I want to get this kind of out of the way because I want to dive back into a second viewing of Avengers Endgame or repeat viewings or home viewing, and I want to know That's really the meat of this conversation for me, and
Okay.
it's my show, and that's just I've slapped my hammer fist down. See what I did there? Little in joke. We'll get there soon. Starting with the fact the image is super clean, there's scarcely a hint of grain, leaving you with a polished, consistent finish, ideally suited to help you become engrossed in Endgame's characters and superheroic shenanigans. There is also a more solid, expansive, but also subtle look to the 4K Blu-ray's colors. It isn't as consistently aggressively used as we've seen as some previous Marvel films, but there's certainly some spectacular high-volume highlights alongside the generally richer grading. Another disappointment, though, with Endgame release, and it's a little cutting through, a disappointment with the Endgame release is its lack of any dynamic HDR format. This is the part that's going to put me to sleep. You only get a basic HDR10 picture. There's no HDR10 Plus or Dolby Vision option. Comment on the Facebook feed or the YouTube feed or the Twitch feed and let me know what that even means and why I would even care. Sound quality. Mercifully, the Dolby Atmos soundtrack found exclusively on the Endgame 4K Blu-ray is not another one of Disney's bizarrely compressed, lifeless efforts. So, picture clean, but not great. Sound, meh, it's there. You can hear it. Here's where I want to get into the extra features, okay? The bonus feature disc includes a short but fun look at the Russo brothers' journey to Endgame, a quick look at the range and influence of the female characters in the MCU. So they have an entire featurette on the females of the MCU, basically kind of like piggybacking off that one scene in the film, which, by the way, on second viewing,
cannot get tired of talking about.
On second viewing, if you would listen, didn't mind it as much on second viewing. Didn't mind it as much.
All right. Well, maybe you're almost enlightened then.
Maybe because I knew it was. No, it has nothing to do with enlightenment. Maybe because I knew it was coming at that point.
I saw it the first time and I was like, yeah, all right, cool. Because I am enlightened, so that's all right.
Oh no! Merely that scene just wasn't meant for me. That's all. It doesn't have nothing to do with enlightenment.
Just because you're a misogynist,
it wasn't made for me. That's all. Well, I like well-written, non-pamphlet material stuck in the middle of my.
Then you do not like the Marvel movies. Then I don't know what you're talking about.
I love the Marvel films. I love it when
you just described them.
No,
in a nutshell.
Marvel movies are not pamphlet material.
Oh, okay.
What are you talking about? They're not pamphlet material. They're not. If look, when I talk about pamphlet material, I talk about the art of if you are actually disguising your message, whatever that message is, through character and story, then I'm all for it. If you're going to beat someone over the head by blatantly
the notion of being over the head with a message, though, that's the thing. If you're getting a message, if someone is sending you a message, and you're getting that message directly as opposed to it being subtly camouflaged or covered up in this kind of strange subterfuge where you can suddenly now allow the message to come into you because it's not coming at you directly, it just doesn't make much sense.
Writing
because if you notice that there is a message, then you still saw the message. So
no. If characters logically, no. Look, I don't actually think.
The
message. Well, see,
I want good writing.
Hassan, you're a writer. You should actually want.
But the thing is, I've been mocked for saying the same thing. It's like, well, the writing is really solid and whatever. And I've literally,
you've only been mocked
from the person I'm talking to right now, been mocked for saying the same thing. So it's just kind of, it's become a trope now. Like I want good writing, but what is good writing? It's a subjective thing of what good writing is, because some people think it's a verbose, very colorful dialogue, while other people think it's not dialogue. It's in the actual premise and the plot and the unfolding of the narrative in the story. So it is a subjective thing as to what good writing is in and of itself.
I think that if you were
message, whatever you receive to someone,
do that scene
to someone, it's going to be hitting someone over the head.
Out of social media timeline and out of take that exact scene and do it 20 years ago when we weren't arguing about identity politics
Oh
and
God. Oh my God.
neo-feminism
All right.
at an everyday rate,
Okay.
it would be looked at and go, oh, that was kind of cheesy. I just think it would be a natural thing, but now it's not because we're in a different age. That being said, I said I didn't mind it.
How stupid would I be to get drawn into a conversation that actually used the euphemism of identity politics? Okay. Anyway,
Euphemism. That's literally what we. That's
it's euphemistic. There's no such thing technically as identity politics. It really isn't, because everybody has an identity. You are speaking from one perspective on the identities or the
okay.
of
That
other
is the
people.
popular phrase.
That it's a euphemism. It's a very popular euphemism.
Okay. That is
Euphemism is not a negative necessarily.
Okay, but it tends to be a negative. So
it's a utilization of a catchphrase that means something that
Okay.
by utilizing a phrase that is not exactly that doesn't exactly capture what the meaning of it in the context of the phrase itself. That's a euphemism. So I mean, it is euphemistic. It's like, I mean, there are all these buzzwords that are good or bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to get drawn into an identity politics type situation. I didn't even bring it up. You're the one that brought it up.
I actually, but the ironic part is, I actually said I didn't mind it the second time.
Yeah, but I mean, we didn't even have to talk about that. we didn't even have to talk about that moment.
I actually even said, though, I didn't. Well, no, we did have to talk about it because then there's a featurette that has a look back at the females in the Marvel universe.
You still didn't have to talk about it. You still didn't have to go over it. I've never agreed with that.
All I said was
position.
I didn't mind it the second time around.
Oh, bully.
There you go. How about that? But then you had to go and
welcome to the world the rest of us live in, Michael.
Oh, but see, that's so you're sitting here being like, I don't know why we talked about it. I'm gonna make fun of you and get on my righteous high horse and be like, if you didn't like it, you're not enlightened.
Yeah, that's the purpose of the second chair, my friend. Unless I'm supposed to just sit here and go, oh, Michael, that's a good idea. That's fantastic. Tell me more.
Look at this.
Tell me more about the transfer of the video card in this particular situation. Tell me more about how crisp and clear the HD look. Well, I mean, come on. What do you want? You really want to?
I did that for all the techies out there who might want that. That's all I know.
I'm saying, like, you want me to just sit there? Oh, very good, very excellent. I will go out tomorrow and purchase myself a copy of this, so that I too may be imbued with the majesty of the Endgame once again. After I've seen it in the theaters, I will sit here in my home theater and then let it waft over me and be elated in the wonderfulness. Come on, I'm not gonna.
What's your second viewing opinion of the movie now?
What's really strange about big tentpole movies is that the very nature that makes them big movies, at least to me, makes them kind of things that there's nothing really to comment on as far as I'm concerned. It's like, okay, you lost half the population of the Earth and the universe, apparently, and now you're gonna get them back.
Yeah,
nice job. I like Infinity War better. I think Infinity War was a better movie, but I do acknowledge that Infinity War had it easier than Endgame. It's easier to set something up than to resolve it. Right. I had an emotional moment with Endgame. I think it hit me emotionally in certain places that I did not expect.
Yeah.
And I think it's well done. I think it deserves the. I don't know necessarily if it deserves to be the #1 movie of all time.
Isn't that the contradictory nature of Endgame too? At least in my head. Is that it is incredibly well done. It does tug on all the heartstrings in all the right ways. It does resolve 10 years of movie making into one giant movie. It does give you a chance to kind of revel in these characters. At the same time, on the second viewing, I still can't get over the decision making with the time travel. I still can't get over the fact that while it is a resolution, now with the Phase 4 announcements complete, it almost seems like it really was a way to set up the next 10 years in a way that almost feels
that's what I was talking about with
aggravating.
We were talking before we went on.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking, I mentioned The Boys. I went over The Boys again, and I was like, okay, everything is kind of everything that we're watching now, everything we're experiencing now is pretty much has a placeholder mentality to it.
Yeah.
Just hold this, watch this space, hold this spot, and we promise if you hold the spot and justify us being given more millions of dollars, we will eventually put something in this spot to be worth your while waiting for it. But in the meantime, here's a taste of the spectacle that we're gonna promise. It's like basically Infinity War was honest.
Right.
We don't have enough time to tell this whole story. We're going to tell you as much story as possible. We're not gonna knock you over with a whole bunch of mysteries or whatever. We're gonna leave one unanswered question, and the rest of it is going to be a cinematic experience with a follow through narrative. Something bad is, these guys are trying to do this bad thing. The good guys are trying to stop the bad guys from doing this bad thing. The twist, as it's a very honest, very, very old-fashioned story. The twist of it is that the heroes lose, right? It's Empire Strikes Back all over again. The hero, we got our butts kicked. Okay, so now the mystery box or whatever that the famous saying, the one holdover,
the euphemism, the euphemism.
Oh, you got me. Yeah. Ooh. Okay. Anyway, the only in your mind, my friend. The one holdover is that how are we going to get all these people back? I mean, we all know we are going to, because we're here for the promise of the heroes prevailing. We're here for the promise of fulfillment, right? That is why every one of us, whether we'd like to admit it or not, that's why every one of us sat down in the movie theater. We want to see our heroes win. We want to win. So the holdover is how be here next week to see how we win, right? And it's luckily instead of Empire Strikes Back, which took 3 years, which is still the longest 3 years of my life, and I remember it very vividly because I was a child at the time. It only took 1 year, and the year between Infinity War and Endgame was still kind of a long year. It was that good, to be continued, right? It was that cliffhanger. Mm-hmm. So when you get to Endgame starts to show its flaws. It shows the flaws in contemporary storytelling, right? Because it's the same problem with Game of Thrones. It's the same problem with Dexter, all these other things. The landing is hard.
Right.
The landing, you have to work your butt off. No matter how your setup, everybody thinks all the work is in the setup. There's a lot of work in your setup. There's a lot of work in craftsmanship and setting up your story. A lot of work. But it pales in comparison to the work you have to do to land it satisfactorily.
Yeah.
Endgame, way better than Game of Thrones ending. Way better.
I would agree with that.
And I think it
movie
deserves
executed much better, obviously.
Well, the thing is, if Game of Thrones had the opportunity to do time travel, they probably. I mean, the Game of Thrones had restrictions. At Endgame, we could just whip out the DeLorean.
Don't tempt the Game of Thrones folks.
It's over. It's over. It doesn't matter. So you're going to use time travel. Okay, it's the same as with every single Star Trek movie.
Right.
Every time they're like, well, we want to step away from time travel, whatever. But every movie that was a tentpole Star Trek movie has the crew of the Enterprise or whatever starship we're following either go back in time or experience such a cataclysm that you're like, well, how are they gonna keep this show going or this movie going with the ship destroyed or with all these people scattered all over the place? Oh, we're gonna go back in time. We're gonna hit the reset button. I mean, literally, it is the go-to. It is the
Right.
It is the default. It is the in case of emergency break time glass.
Right.
Default of every franchise.
Right.
And on top of using time travel, Endgame kind of shows its inability to even work within the parameters of the time travel milieu, right? Because it just changes the rules of time travel in order to make it work. It changes the rules to set up some stakes, which is kind of cool. At least if they're going to change the rule, they change the rules to show us the perils of doing it.
Right.
But it still changed the time travel as the conventionality, the conventional wisdom of time travel, which is wrong. Which is none of us are physicists, so none of us really understand time travel the way it works. But
Tony Stark does in 5 minutes. It's okay.
Yeah. Well, that's why Tony Stark is Tony Stark. But what you're watching is the unraveling of narrative, of people being able to tell a story without spectacle, without bright lights, without gimmickry, and they've become good enough at the gimmickry to hide it so well that you don't realize that you're not being told a story until maybe the story's over, and you're like, what was that about? What did we just? I mean, that was kind of cool, but what just happened? What did I just watch?
Yeah.
So, I think the seeds of the destruction of modern storytelling in Endgame, which is ironic because Endgame is the biggest movie of all time now.
Right.
But I think because of Infinity War, Endgame is saved from being a completely flawed story because of the masterwork that was Infinity War that led into Endgame. I really
agree.
I really wish.
Even on second time viewing, Infinity War to me still gets me excited when I watch it, and the home experience.
It's a really well done movie.
Yeah.
It really is. And I mean, the main point of me going to see Infinity War is like, I don't believe they can pull this off. First of all, you're going to tell me that you're going to do a whole series of movies, and all the movies are going to be interconnected, and all these characters are going to be, and you're going to make this work over a decade, right? Yeah, right, bull, right? And then you do it.
Yeah.
And then and it's going to culminate with the Infinity War. It's going to the Infinity Gauntlet story is going to culminate with that. So we're going to have the Thanos guys. He's going to come down and he's going to be chasing after these stones, and he's going to want to destroy the universe. Right. And the Avengers are going to have to stop it either here on Earth or in outer space. Mm-hmm. And you're like, bull, you're not going to be able to pull that off. I don't care what anybody says. And then you watch it, and you're like, they're doing it. Like, I'm watching them do it. So I think they had so much. They managed to ingratiate themselves with so much goodwill because they landed each and every attempt that they made, every historical move they made that had never been done before. They managed to do it. That they built up so much goodwill that when you watch Endgame the second time, the first time you're just you're just too busy eating popcorn and watching stuff blow up.
Right.
The second time when you watch it, you're like, all right, guys.
Busy holding in that pee that you know you have to go, but you don't want to get out of the theater.
It's a 3.5 hour freaking extravaganza.
That is the only reason to get the Blu-ray. That, and there's a very funny look at the creation of Fat Thor. All right, let us know what you think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Again, second time around, I still pick Infinity War. I'd pick even Spider-Man over Endgame.
Wow. I don't know about that.
But let us know what you think. Chime in on the Facebook feed. Chime in on the YouTube feed. We will respond to you in the comments. But when we come back, we're going to kick off very briefly because we've used a lot of time to get through that Avengers Endgame Blu-ray review. Our in-depth breakdown of the Marvel Phase 4 announcements, including, do we already know who the villain for Doctor Strange is going to be?
Do we care? Oh, uh-oh.
When we come back.
putting you making on put you teething on putting you mean. Well, you better watch out, boy. You're gonna need an undertaker.
Welcome back to Secrets of the Sire. Secrets of the Sire is brought to you by all of our beloved patrons. New fans, Craig Caruso, Tom Osa. Dedicated fans, Einar Peterson, Matt Byer, Ashley Haikai, Omar Morales, Brian Phillips, Steve Ovecki, Program Director Stephanie Dolce, and as always, our Uber fan, Christina Dolce. Go to patreon.com/Secrets of the Sire. Be sure to like us on Facebook, facebook.com/Secrets of the Sire, and youtube.com/Secrets of the Sire.
I say don't like us.
Channel. No, subscribe to our channel.
I say we're going to endure
You
even
are
if you don't like us.
all that
Reverse
fun
psychology. Reverse psychology.
Subscribe to us on iTunes. We have a 4.9% rating on iTunes. It's Apple Podcasts. Go look up Secrets of the Sire. We were slightly less popular than the Impractical Jokers podcast this past week. We were 190th in our category. It's very exciting.
Awesome. We're number 190. We're number 190.
They were 189. So, all right. Before we get into the Doctor Strange 2 preview, the next couple weeks we're going to be previewing Marvel Phase 4 films. I actually figured it out. The only reason you were upset with my entire commentary on the female scene in Avengers Endgame is because of the argument that you used in the past, and now you were upset that I was using it for something. But you have to realize, Hassan, that the argument is only valid when I use it. So as long as you
I don't even know what you're talking about right now, so.
As long as you understand that.
I understand, Michael.
Then we'll be okay.
I know exactly what you're talking about right now. I'm just going to keep pretending.
Doctor Strange 2. Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. This was on Screen Rant, actually, over the weekend. Doctor Strange 2 theory. Scarlet Witch is the Multiverse Madness. Could Scarlet Witch be the villain of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness? Marvel Studios has been dabbling with the idea of alternate universes and dimensions for a while. It was subtly introduced in Thor films and explored more in depth. Scarlet Witch has the capacity in that in the comics, Doctor Strange noted, Wanda possessed abilities she had neither earned nor understood, and this led to the to say the least, the terrifying Avengers Disassembled, where she basically disassembled everyone, and she got rid of all the mutants. Basically, this kind of setup.
Scarlet Witch is a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
She's a lot of trouble.
There's a strong comic book precedent for Scarlet Witch to become the villain. The MCU version of Wanda Maximoff isn't quite the same character as in the comics. However, it's notable that Marvel Studios appear to be preparing to retcon Scarlet Witch as a sorceress. The MCU introduced its version of magic in Doctor Strange. In a speech from the Ancient One, she described magic as the source code that shapes reality. And in a 2016 interview, Kevin Feige mentioned her powers. She's never had any training. I'm talking about Scarlet Witch. She's never had any training. She's figuring it out. Arguably, you could say that's why her powers are so much more chaotic and much more loose in the way that we showcased these light effects.
And in the interest of saying something positive about a movie, I just spent the last segment bashing. How great was the moment in Endgame?
Absolutely.
When she attacked Thanos.
Oh yeah.
You took everything from me, and he goes, "I don't even know who you are." I think that was wonderful because it was true on both sides. It wasn't bravado.
Yes.
And you understood the emotional stakes of both characters. That was a really I love that you
supported my theory that a scene can have a big payoff when it has the correct build up, the right setup. I mean, this was a scene you wanted.
It is subjective as to whether or not other scenes that you may or may not be referring to actually does or doesn't.
I'm just talking about the Scarlet Witch scene. I think the Scarlet Witch scene is fantastic because it has unbelievable build up. There's so much at stake for both characters, and comic book nerds, we know that Scarlet Witch, based on canon,
is the most powerful.
Is if not the most
powerful mutant. I think.
Well, yeah, that's true. But hey, mutants are coming back now, baby.
Yeah. She's not the most powerful character in Marvel. She's the most powerful mutant in Marvel.
Wouldn't that be amazing too? Is if she was the reason? So almost a reverse of No More Mutants, which is the famous line in the Marvel comics. She's like, "Bring back mutants," and everyone's like, "What? What are mutants?" Oh, it turns out Scarlet Witch has just been hiding them the entire time.
I'm pretty sure they could pull it off.
I just wrote Phase 4. I
Yeah.
just wrote Phase 5. I wrote the Phase 5.
Check your phones, probably ringing. Probably people coming to give you lots of money for it. Here you go, Michael Dolce. Thank God for you, because we just did not know what Phase 5 was going to be until just now. And we're not even, almost gave it away.
Here's the thing, right?
Almost gave it away.
Doctor Strange as a film was thoroughly enjoyable, and I don't need another one, period. So the actual idea of Scarlet Witch being in Doctor Strange 2...
You didn't need the first one.
No, I agree. I'm just saying I was thoroughly entertained. I enjoyed it, but I never left the theater being like, well, I can't wait for the sequel to that. It was more like...
That's different from I don't... I take umbrage with that term.
I know you do.
Of need. Nobody needs art.
Nobody needs anything.
Nobody needs anything. Exactly. So stop using
water and air.
Using the phrase, I need this. This
and
is
purpose.
I need to happen. It didn't need to happen. This is a sequel that did not need to happen. Yeah, neither did your comment.
I guess what I was trying to say was, though, the addition of Scarlet Witch, the thought process to this theory that her powers, bringing her closer to the Scarlet Witch of Avengers Disassembled, actually has me moderately excited if that is indeed the road that Marvel decides to go. Do you feel similar?
No. How many times do we do this? I don't get excited about it. You're gonna tell me another story. You're gonna be like, "Hey, man, on Tuesday I'm gonna come by and I'm gonna show you this comic book, or I'm gonna show you this movie." I am intrigued by the movie that I am going to see. I am intrigued in the notion that I'm going to get to see a movie. I'm going to get to read a comic book, and there's a good possibility that I may extremely enjoy what I am experiencing.
Yeah.
As opposed to there's a possibility that I may hate it.
Yeah.
But the prospects, it's like I'm one of those people who, if I'm going to your house, you're far away, you're a train ride away. I'm more excited about that train ride than I am about actually getting to your house, because the train ride is going to be full of all this stimuli, whatever, and I just get to sit and observe this weird chaotic energy.
When
I get to your house, I'm going to have to be on my best behavior and hang out. And we're going to talk about stuff, and then I'm going to leave, and I'm going to get back into the chaos mobile, and then I'm going to go home. So like when you get a movie, when Marvel says we're gonna do Phase 5, we're gonna do Phase 4, and it's gonna be all these different movies, I'm like, okay, I got guaranteed experiences in the future. But am I excited about any of them other than the prospect of something I might enjoy is coming? No, not really. I don't really. I think it's just the part of my makeup. I don't really get excited about upcoming events. I get happy that there are events coming.
Yeah.
But I'm not excited, that's because there's too much of a potential for a letdown, and that's me letting myself down because I built the situation up too much. So something is actually excellent, but because I wanted it to be way more than it actually was, I didn't get to experience the excellence that it was until way later.
Well, I think for me, Doctor Strange has no expectations, and it has no just the inkling that I will get excited to see it is enough to justify it in my head. All right.
I learned that from Starship Troopers.
Oh, good Lord.
When I was 20 years, whatever years, I looked at the trailers like this movie is going to be the greatest movie ever been. There's no way this movie is not going to be one of the greatest movies I've ever seen. And it was a good movie. But it wasn't the greatest movie I ever saw. Yeah, so right. So it was actually a disappointment to me, and I missed out on the whole Starship Troopers thing because I decided it was going to be the greatest thing ever, and I don't do that anymore.
Let us know what you think. Comment.
Don't tell us.
Comment in the Facebook feed.
Don't comment.
comment in the watch parties. We have several watch parties going on.
Stay away from our watch
Because
parties.
they're pretty cool.
They're dangerous.
And the YouTube feed and the Twitch feed, we will get back to you. When we come back, happy to welcome Sean Lewis, Image Comics Thumbs. Check out the all-new Sire Studios website, SireStudiosInc.com. Find all your back issues for The Sire, Mainstream, Undone, and more. And be on the lookout for news and announcements, convention appearances, and brand new podcasts coming to Sire Studios. That address again is SireStudiosInc.com. Welcome back to Secrets of the Sire. We do this every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, coming to you live from the Sire Digital Network. That is youtube.com/Secrets of the Sire, facebook.com/Secrets of the Sire, twitch.tv/Secrets of the Sire, and everywhere you can download a podcast, iTunes, iHeartRadio, etc., etc. Really excited to welcome my next guest. We have Sean Lewis from the hit Image Comics series Thumbs. Sean, how you doing, sir?
I'm good. Thanks for having me tonight.
Well, glad to have you. Obviously, we kind of talked off air. I've done some stuff at Image too, so I love talking to fellow creators, which is awesome. But Thumbs is doing way, way better than my Image book ever did. You guys sold out the first issue run?
We did. We sold out the first and the second issue.
Oh, man, that's like way better than I did 10 years ago. I actually sold the most books I'd ever done at Image and still wasn't good enough. I was like, yay, we sold this. And Jim Valentino's like, yeah, no, you got to be up here. And we're like, oh. big
yeah, it's always nerve-wracking. Waiting for those numbers to come in is always like a pretty terrifying couple of days.
Oh, gosh, yeah. What kind of promotion, because I've seen you everywhere. It's kind of how we connected in general. You really do get out there. What promotion did you do for this book? Like personally? Because I know everyone thinks like when you become like Image Comics, like, oh, that was my first thought too. It was like, oh, great, Image. Oh, this is great. I can finally stop having to promote the book and they can do it. And then you realize, no, that's not the case.
Well, that's definitely not the case. I think I made that mistake. So this is my fourth book with Image. And so the first one was when I did Saints. I was under the delusion. I was just like, oh, they're going to do all the marketing for me. This is going to be like so easy. And so I didn't do any of the marketing. And then I was like, why are my numbers so low?
Yeah.
Like, well, you didn't like tell anyone the book was coming out. So with each book, part of it is like just having built a bit of an audience from the previous three books.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a nice base there. And then, I'm just a big believer in guerrilla marketing. Twitter specifically is something that I use pretty obsessively. I started using Instagram. I'd never used it before. But basically what I did is I got a really cheap film setup, basically like a tripod with a halo light that I could put my phone in the middle of and a little blue screen. And so I just would make commercials for my book, months in advance and just kind of putting them up and using that to kind of connect people, like little trailers. And that actually worked really well.
Those. Yeah, those. Where did you see the traffic on Twitter, Instagram, both because of those trailers?
Twitter and Instagram. There's a massive difference between when I put it up myself and when Image retweets it. When Image retweets it, suddenly the views can hit up to 5,000 to 10,000 people.
Wow.
Which is huge. For an indie book, especially getting that much exposure is great. Sure. And it starts to lead to other exposure. Like you start having outlets who didn't know the book was coming out or did and weren't paying that, didn't really care that much, suddenly going people are talking about this. Do you want to do an interview with us? Do you want to do something on radio, on one of our podcasts, or do you want to do something, in print? And so it just starts to kind of perpetuate itself.
Gary Vaynerchuk is the famous motivational speaker, and he had a video. I recently listened to a podcast that had a quote from him, and he's like, do every interview you possibly can. He's like, every 40 view video, 400 view video, 100, listen, download. It doesn't matter how small or how much or how great. Do everything to get the word out as much as possible, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think there's multitudes to that. I mean, you're trying to connect, especially on an indie book, and the difference of the finances of that. Like, every person counts. And I think there's also just a bigger thing if you're going to work outside of the mainstream. Like, there's that whole concept of the 1,000 true fans. Like, if you can get 1,000 people who commit or believe in whatever you do, then you can basically make a living do what you're doing. And so, like, I'm a big believer in that, of like, you kind of find and create your own community, especially if you're trying to tell your own stories. So yeah, I mean, I think if someone's willing to talk to you, talk.
Nothing wrong with that. All right, we've talked around thumbs. Give us the 30-second elevator pitch.
Sure. So basically, if you imagine a world where Mark Zuckerberg has been giving away free tech and to poor kids around the country, and that tech is actually starting to indoctrinate them into becoming his own little army, trying to overthrow the government. That is the basic premise and setup of the world. And we follow this main character, Charlie, whose nickname is Thumbs, who is one of these kids who's indoctrinated, who after an injury wakes up to a really horrific world and is just desperate to save his sister from it.
Yeah, it's great. Having read the first couple issues, a lot of video game culture references, a lot of anti-technology references, which is just ironic too, because even this morning I was reading like Time magazine. I was reading like an actual magazine, getting my hair cut, and I was like, what a different reading something on paper about the news,
right?
And it doesn't mean
the anomaly.
Yeah, I know, right? And it reminded me of how, like, when you used to read stuff in magazines, it didn't. It informed you. It didn't inflame you. But I feel like everything on technology now is like about inflaming you.
Well, there's a big thing about that. I mean, they do a lot of studies that there's a whole study around like the negative click, that the negative click generates like 5 to 10 times more interaction than anything positive. And so, when people's jobs, like reporters' jobs now are literally connected to the amount of clicks that they get on their page. If you know that that's at risk, then you're going to definitely lean towards, writing something that is confrontational, and that's going to make people frustrated and angry and read it for those reasons and engage with it for those reasons. I find that terrifying. so, that's not really a world. I mean, it's the world we are living in, but it's very scary to me. I think like sometimes I feel like technology is this weird Pandora's box that like we didn't really know what we were opening, and we're finding out a little bit more every year of like, oh, this is what this thing really does.
Right. I'm a big believer that it will correct itself. Like the market always corrects itself. History always corrects itself. But the casualties along the way is what I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about what it is. I mean, I was having a discussion with my dad about this, and we were talking about, can you trust the media? And I didn't mean that from a political standpoint. I just meant it from exactly the point you just talked about. Can you trust someone who is desperate to get your attention versus their desire is to inform you,
Right. And is the process or the purpose anymore to actually inform the populace as opposed to direct them? And that's also kind of scary. Like, it weirdly feels, everything feels weirdly manipulative right now. At least to me. Like, I feel like I see Twitter posts or, CNN or Fox articles, and I'm just like, this doesn't feel like it's trying to actually teach me or inform me on anything I should know about. This is just trying to tell me what I'm supposed to think.
That's the model for our entire show. That's actually, no, I'm just
Great.
You must buy all my stuff. No. Hayden Sherman is your partner on this. The artwork is stunning in Thumbs.
Yeah, he's great.
I just absolutely love it. How did you end up getting together with Hayden and just describe that relationship you guys have?
Sure. I found him on a Facebook page maybe 4 years ago. We did a book previously called The Few. Hayden was still in undergrad at the Rhode Island School of Design, and Boom Studios used to, I guess they still have it. They had a Facebook page that I think instead of getting overwhelmed at their offices with art submissions, they were just like, just on this page, just drop your art. And so, and so like I don't know if you went through this when you were at Image, but like when my first book ended, I turned to Eric Stevenson, who's editor-in-chief, and I was like, I've got an idea for another book. I think it's going to be great. So like, what's the artist you want to set me up with? And he was like, we don't do that. Like, you got to find an artist.
Oh yeah.
That much like, what do you mean?
That much I know.
Yeah. I did not know that. I was just like, wait, I have to find another artist. And he was like, yeah, and I used some online sites, and I was having so much trouble, and I found that Boom page. And I went through it, and I found the next two artists that I worked with, Hayden being one of them. Like, I saw his art, and immediately was just like, I've never seen anything like this. Like, his style is so definitive.
Yeah.
And I had this idea for this book, The Few, and I wanted it to be really stark. And immediately I was like, he's the right artist, and if he's not, I'm going to tailor it to him.
Yeah.
So we did that. We had a great experience working on that. It was probably the first big book for both of us. And then as soon as it ended, we started working on Thumbs. It just took, it took a long time to do the books. They're all double sized. And also when you work at Image, like, nothing gets solicited until you have 3 entire issues completely done.
Yeah.
So the amount of time it takes to finish 3 issues, like we're almost probably 18 months outside of when The Few ended. Like it takes a while.
So, we talked about this actually too. How did you break in initially? I mean, talk about the Saints experience. Like, how did you end up getting a book at Image? Because a lot of people were like, "Wow, I would." It's funny the amount of indie creators I run into who are like, "I'm just going to send this to Image," and I'm just like, "Yeah, I send things to Image. They don't even talk to me." Like,
Right.
And I did stuff there. It's like, so how do you break that mold?
Well, I'm going to be the person that pisses you and other people off because I have before. Because what I did is I did just send it to Image.
That's awesome.
Steve Orlando, I met him right when I was doing my first book. He's become a good friend and good mentor in the business. And we were doing a signing. He asked me the same thing, and I was just like, "Yeah, I did a cold mailing directly to Eric." And he was like, "Don't tell anyone that story." He's like, "Do not tell anyone that story." And I was just like, "Why?" And he was just like, "Because it's going to let people think that that's how that normally happens." He's like, "I've never heard of that happening for anyone." I mean, I will say there were some differences. I mean, when I sent the pitch to Eric, I had already done a story on This American Life for NPR. I'd already won a couple of awards as a playwright. Like, there was a trajectory of work behind me that I think made him even just look at it. Because I think, and I will say this, I think at the time, for some reason, his email was on the Image website. It is no longer on the Image website.
No.
So I think I was at the last window of like, oh, the editor-in-chief. That must be who. I was very naive, was part of it. Like, I love comics, but I didn't understand the business of it at all. Like, I had fantasized about writing comics for years. I just didn't know how you even got a chance. So basically, I met an artist working on a theater project, and we did this book, Saints, at first for fun, and then we found ourselves with a full issue, and I was like, why not send it to some people? Like, maybe they'll publish it. And I did a bunch of cold emails to like Dark Horse and Image and IDW, and like no one really responded to me except for Eric. And it was way later. He responded to me probably like 3 months after I sent it to him. But then things moved fast. He was just like, "Do you want to do the book here?" And it just kind of changed everything. Like it's been a really great relationship there.
When you sent him the book, though, and you said you didn't have an artist attached?
I did have an artist. We had done a whole issue.
Okay. So you did have that. So for the first one, so that was good. But then going forward, it was like then you had to realize.
Yeah. Well, I kind of understood that, like, to break into the business, you probably need a full book because as a writer, it's got to be really weird to just turn in a script without seeing how it plays on a page.
Sure.
So like, and me and Ben Mackey had created this thing together while we were working on this play. But what I just misunderstood is I was like, oh, I'm in now. Like, I'm sure like they must have like a stable of artists and now they just kind of pair you together. And I was also underestimating, like, that first book did not sell whatsoever. So like, I was also naive enough to not realize like they probably shouldn't do another book with me. Like just financially, it would probably be a really bad idea to do a second comic with me. For whatever reason they did. And then that book did really well, and then the book after it did well. So and then that kind of led to Thumbs, because the first one did not. I mean, it got a lot of critical response, but we didn't sell like anything.
Welcome to my world.
So unfortunately, it's a lot of people's world. There's a lot of great books that are underrepresented.
Off air, I'll tell you a great trick I learned after my last series came out through Zenescope that I wish I would have done. I'll tell you, it's a fantastic thing that I was like, somebody told me about it, and I'm like, man, I wish I would have done that. That's right, viewers and listeners, you don't get to hear my hot take on what to do. No, actually, it's hiring a telemarketing company on Fiverr to call retailers. That's my.
Oh,
Somebody said that to me.
that's interesting.
Because what you do is you just do it as a teaser, 5 minutes in, and that's it. Just so that they come in, they read off a script, and if they want, if the retailer wants to learn more, they can take a note and say the creator will call you directly. Because I actually, my best-selling book. Well, I wouldn't say it's my best-selling book, but the original, The Sire, when I first did it, I self-published it. And I did a fantastic number for a first issue for an indie book from a no-name company. And, I sold like 2,000 copies, which was like fantastic. But that was when I was like 26 and had all the time in the world and could call every single retailer up.
Right.
And then subsequently, every book I did since, I'm like, I don't have time. I don't know where I had the time when I was 26, but apparently that's just what you do when you're in your 20s. You have all the time in the world. I don't have the time to do it. And someone said to me, they're like, yeah, I hired somebody off of Fiverr. You should just do that. And I'm like, damn. You told me.
Yeah,
this.
no, that's smart. That's definitely smart.
You'll use it. You'll credit me. It's good. All right. Real quick, before we go, you mentioned you're a award-winning playwright. Talk to us about the plays you do. I love the fact that you're multi-talented and it's not just comics. Give us a world view of Sean Lewis.
Sure. I mean, so I guess for the last 15 years, I've made my primary living as a playwright and theater director. And so I create books that are usually around political subjects, but kind of deal with the gray area. I write a lot of plays around subject matter that I don't know what I think about. And through the play, I'm like trying to argue with myself to actually find out what I believe.
That's awesome.
I tend to approach most things kind of going like, I think I'm actually too stupid to have an opinion on this subject matter that's so huge yet. And so I kind of have to write this play to even see, like, what do I think about capital punishment? What do I think about police brutality? What do I think about these things? As opposed to just being like, I think it's bad in a very simplistic way that doesn't look at, like, all things, or I think it's good for the same reasons. And so, yeah, so those plays have, like, performed off Broadway and around the country and internationally. And so that's been a big part of my life. It's only in the past, like, 2 years where comic books have kind of, devoured them.
What are you reading these days, comic book wise?
Gideon Falls is a big one for me. I have just started reading Dark Arc, which I'm really enjoying a lot. If there's something that has to do with Catholicism, I'll probably get suckered into it pretty quickly. Just from my background. I'm trying to think what else. Like Black Hammer. I'm a big Jeff Lemire fan, so like anything of his. I go back and read his Bloodshot Colorado series a lot.
Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then I'm also always looking for suggestions from people of what they're kind of like obsessed with. I also read that Dark Horse had a graphic novel on the Green River Killer recently, and it was amazing. It was fantastic.
Wow. Very, very cool. All right, Sean, where can people find you online, and where can people find Thumbs and all the stuff you got going on right now?
Sure. I have a website, so that's just SeanChristopherLewis.com, and my Twitter is @SeanChrisLewis, and my Instagram is SeanLewis6026.
Very, very cool. And Thumbs number 3 is in stores right now, or where are we up to?
Thumbs number 3 is out right now. Yeah, good time to hop on it. We're at the midpoint.
All right, very cool. Well, Sean, thank you so much for joining us. I really do appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
And when we come back, we go spinning the racks. Welcome back to Secrets of the Sire. I want to thank Sean Lewis for joining us, talking about Image Comics' new series, Thumbs. Go check out the book. Go check him out on Instagram and Twitter. We do this every week. We go spinning the racks.
Spin the rack, spin that rack.
Marvel Comics' 80th anniversary. CB Cebulski explains the approach. This is from CBR.com.
The approach is we're going to turn 80. That's his approach.
Well, first of all, we've been rebranding Spin the Racks to be a little more comic book centric. So we're taking you inside the source material for your favorite films. That's
yes, we are.
Spin the Racks. Look at that.
Yes.
So
We're
there's nothing greater than knowing what's coming up in Marvel Comics. So Marvel Comics 80th anniversary has been an opportunity to put more comics in the stands. But unlike past celebrations, this year's milestone extends beyond the traditional anthology format projects. CB Cebulski explained the approach to the comics, focusing on 8 decades of House of Ideas by tying them to his general editorial approach for Marvel and Here and Now. We were figuring out how to celebrate the 80th anniversary, going back to the idea of look back to the past to respect the future. He told us, CBR at Comic-Con International, we knew we wanted to go back to the past creators, bring back past storylines, and tell one-shots and miniseries, not just with the superhero genre, but with horror, romance, sci-fi, the other things that Marvel and Timely and Atlas were known for previously. So Marvel Comics 1000 is coming out August 28th. It's going to have, just a slew of creators. It's ridiculous. It's all tied together with Al Ewing is writing is writing the spine, I guess, is the guy who did the heavy lifting here. The comic connects Marvel Comics #1 to every Marvel comic we've ever seen, telling a story we've never seen told before about the background of Marvel Universe. Kind of cool in a sense too. Like you think about it, like the 80th anniversary, it's Marvel Comics 1000, and you do the math on it. I was doing the math on it with the Action Comics. It's really incredible if you think about it. The fact that, Marvel Comics almost didn't even make it. Timely, it was like Timely Comics in 1939 to the point that we're now at, right?
And there were like concerted efforts to get rid of it. Like it wasn't even one of those like, well, the sales are down, so we might not be around. It's like literally the government's trying to shut us down.
Stan Lee,
long periods of time in the history of the comic books.
Yeah, it was a famous story too, where basically the guy was like, "Yeah, we're probably closing up shop. So Stan, you could do whatever you want. Just go ahead and have fun because we're probably not going to make it past this year." And he's like, "I'm going to create Fantastic Four. I'm going to change."
No, you know what? Don't you wish you yourself just came up with ideas like that? And it just.
I have them, but like I told Sean Lewis, my comics don't make money. Oh, wait! Attention, future publishers, don't. Can we edit that out?
Yeah, you can do that. You edit that out.
Call
Call the studio. Call the engineer.
All right. Marvel Comics 1000 coming out. Go check it out.
Cool.
Next week, we dive deeper into Marvel Phase 4. We're going to break down Thor 4, and we welcome Geek Sheet Elite podcaster Laura Cerrone on the show. She's going to be on talking about Thor, and she's also going to talk about why Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and this is completely subjective, is the best Marvel TV show ever created.
Oh, gotta hear that.
See you guys next week.